That damn phone again. He's been calling all damn day. I answered with my usual greeting. Sam Brown. Sam, baby, do you think you can get out early and start our weekend? Her voice was like honey, sweet in consistency, which always excited me. What about Angela? I sent her home early. Nobody's here. Hurry up. I turned off the computer, sent the phone to voicemail, and locked the office behind me. I practically ran to my car. There would be little traffic congestion at this time of day, even on a Friday. I would be at her house in half an hour. The first time I met Christy was when she walked into the music class. We were both in junior high school. There was only one seat available for the 5'10", blonde-haired, blue-eyed beauty, and it was right next to mine. We exchanged greetings and names before Ms. Creamer began her lecture on the evolution of jazz in early 20th century America. Yes, I remember that moment clearly. That was the day I fell in love with Christy Holman. Christy and I dated throughout our freshman year. I knew she dated other guys from time to time, but I put up with it because, firstly, I had to, and secondly, she was usually free for at least one night every weekend. Spring has arrived, and I've had a great year for 3 reasons. I played on the university tennis team. It seemed that I would enter the state university. My SAT scores came back, and I ranked in the 99th percentile. Everything looked good for admission to the college of my choice. There was only one thing that could make this year better, and I planned to complete my personal top 3 on Saturday. I took Christy to see the movie Shampoo because everyone said she looked like a younger, blonder version of Lee Grant. The movie was sexy, and afterwards Christy and I kissed passionately in my car. She never allowed me anything more than French kissing and the occasional rubbing of her breasts through her blouse, and tonight was no exception. I stopped kissing Christy long enough to ask her my question. Christy, will you go to prom with me? Sam, I'm sorry. Jake Harmon already asked, and I said yes. Jake was the best quarterback in our school. I didn't even know they were dating. My ego fell into a deep, dark hole. I held myself together for the next half hour as I drove her home and walked Christy to her parents' door. She kissed me on the lips and entered the house. The porch light went out. It didn't help when the next day at Sunday dinner, my mom, in her usual cheerful way, asked if Christy was glad she was invited to prom. My little brother Jeff, my dad, and my mom were all watching me with smiles on their faces. I truly had a kind, loving family. I grew up in a safe cocoon. I can't say how happy she was when she agreed to go to prom. Most likely happy because she said yes to him. To him? Who is this for? Christy goes to prom with Jake Harmon. Let's just say that my parents did everything they could to help me get over this bump in the road. As I said, I grew up in a loving family. I did my best to avoid Christy during the summer between my junior and senior years. But autumn came, school began, and it became more difficult to avoid it. Christy acted as if nothing had happened. One Friday afternoon, she even cornered me and asked me to take her to a soccer game. I only agreed because I was going to go anyway. Jeff was the starter. What a turn. Here I am sitting next to Christy, and she calls for Jake, and I scream every time Jake passes to Jeff. Confused, right? After the game, I did my duty and handed Christy to Jake as he left the locker room. Jake was actually a great guy. It wasn't his fault that he dated the girl I loved. When he came out of the locker room, all excited about the victory, he greeted me with the words, "Your brother played a great game." His throws make me look good. He shook my hand and thanked me for taking care of his girl. I did my best to spend as little time with Christy as possible. The school was large, so it was easy to limit ourselves to a few conversations a week. Besides, Christy was busy with Jake. That's why what happened in February seems so strange. It was the day after my 18th birthday, and I was hanging out at home studying. I answered the knock on the door and found Christy standing there. "Hello, Sam. Can I come in?" I let her in. "Are your parents at home?" "No." "Jeff?" "No, what's the matter?" "I brought you a present for your birthday." Christy took my hand and led me down the stairs to the office. "Happy birthday, Sam." Christy gave me a soulful kiss. Our tongues played with each other. Her hand on the back of my head pulls me towards her mouth. Christy's hands went down to my pants. The belt buckled and then the zipper came undone. Christy and I had sex that day. I didn't know what to say. I lost my virginity and experienced my first climax with a woman. Here was the girl of my dreams, giving me what I wanted more than anything in the world. It didn't occur to me until later that day. How did Christy, who just turned 18 a month ago, learn so much about sex? This was in the late 70s. Distribution of sexually explicit material was not common. There were X-rated movies, but they were only shown in rare adult theaters. The internet was decades away, and the founder of Facebook would not be born until 7 years later. If I thought this was a revival of Christy and Sam, I was wrong. Christy continued to date Jake. We still talked from time to time, and sometimes when we passed by in the hall, Christy would hold Jake's arm, and she would secretly smile at me, exchanging nonverbal things that only the two of us knew. We finished school. Christy went to Arizona State University and I went to Northwestern. Christy went from high school quarterback to college basketball, forward to swimmer, destined to compete in the Olympics. We saw each other in the summer and on any holidays when Christy was at home. This is where our relationship reached its crazy status, which continued for years. Despite Christy's other relationships at school, we became lovers here at home. It started the summer after my freshman year. Christy and I were at the same party. She came up to me and spoke as if we were best friends. I took her home, and we made love in her parents' mother-in-law's spare apartment above the garage. Christy seemed pleased with my performance. I spent my first year at Northwestern University trying to please several female students. Why, Sam? Have you improved your game since last time? Now you have the tools and the talent. For the next 3 years, until I graduated from college, we did the same thing. Sex with each other in Chicago and with other people the rest of the time we were in our schools. I seriously thought we'd have a chance after high school. Christy talked about moving back to Chicago and finding a job in the city. For this reason, I turned down an excellent job offer from a company in Palo Alto that was doing some advanced work on personal computers. Imagine my surprise when Christy called me and told me that she had decided to go to graduate school at the University of California. I believe that Christy's time at USC gave her a taste for the finer things in life. Hanging out with the rich, beautiful people of Southern California gave her the opportunity to experience what it was like to spend the day on someone's yacht or cruise down Rodeo Drive in a Bentley with her buddies. After 2 years at the University of California, Christy finally returned home. I was still single, and we started dating and having sex again. I wondered again if this could be it. Could this be what I've been waiting for? My parents and brother told me I was crazy, and I resented their lack of faith. Was I not good enough for her? Is that what they were trying to say? Of course that wasn't true, but I was too stupid to realize that they didn't think Christy was good enough for me. So Christy and I dated for the next 5 months until I was ready to pop the question and give Christy an engagement ring for Christmas. That is, until one evening, I returned from a wonderful evening listening to Beethoven at the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. Sir George was at the top of his game that evening, and I was walking on air, the Seventh Symphony spinning in my head, and Christy walking beside me, holding my hand. Sam, we need to talk. Huh? This is our last date. I'm getting married in June. He proposed to me last weekend, and I said yes. He agreed that I could go with you to the symphony concert tonight, just so you know. Who is this? His name is Kent Thomas. This is a man I met at work. He owns one of the companies that we supply with materials. And he knows that you and I dated and slept together while you were dating him? Yes, but he knows it's over between us. And he says it doesn't matter as long as I promise to be faithful from now on. Wow, you're an understanding guy. Yes, he is wonderful. Christy didn't mention, and very rich. And finally, it was all over. At least that's what I thought. I dreamed about Christy almost every night for the first year after our last breakup. She was married to Kent Thomas, and I tried to forget that. My friends and family did everything they could to help me get through it. When kindness didn't work, they teased me. When teasing didn't work, they tried tough love. I was starting to come to my senses until one day she walked into my office. "Hello, Sam." It's just like it hasn't been more than a year since she said goodbye to me. "Hello, Christy. What brought you here?" "Kent is flying to Argentina for a week of fly fishing somewhere on some river there. I'm staying in town and was wondering if you'd like some company." "What are you talking about? Are you married?" "Yes, but I'm not dead yet, and Kent is not you when it comes to sex." I hesitated. "Are you seeing someone, Sam?" "No, but that's not the point. I'm not going to stand here and beg, Sam. If you want, here is my address. Come after 6. Angela, our maid, will no longer be there. You can go to the garage. Here's the remote. Close the door behind you. I'll be waiting." God help me. I went to her house that night and stayed until 4 in the morning. The sex was incredible. Christy was insatiable. Christy was wearing a sheer negligee and an equally sheer robe over it. When the garage door closed and I got out of the car, she opened the door between the garage and the entrance. The light from the house illuminated her dress, and I could see the silhouette of her still beautiful body underneath. She took my hand as we walked through the kitchen. She turned off the light and led me into their office. A fire was blazing in the fireplace. Christy prepared a carafe of red wine. There were candles burning on both sides of the fireplace and on the mantelpiece. Fire and candles were the only source of light in the room and throughout the house. "Take off your clothes, Sam. I've needed you for so long." I was naked, and my arms were wrapped around her body. The robe flew off, and the negligee rode up over her head, catching just for a second on one of the giant gems she wore as earrings. We kissed as I laid her down on the blankets in front of the fireplace. Christy whispered in my ear, "I missed this so much. I missed you so much, Sam." When we finished, we hugged in front of the fireplace. We talked about nothing. Nothing about her husband or the women I dated last year. It took me a while to come to my senses. Then I took Christy for the second time. For some reason, I always liked the second round better. We had sex for quite a long time, and one by one we came to the finish line. When it happened, it was like magic. We slept until her alarm rang at 3:45. I got dressed and went home. This went on for 2 years. Kent was leaving town, and Christy called, and I came running. All this time, I was waiting for Christy to come to her senses. How could she stay with him when she obviously loved me more? I know I couldn't compete with his money. Heck, I wasn't even at the same level, but I was making very good money. I could afford vacations, cars, and luxuries. Maybe not the month-long European vacation, or the Mercedes-Benz 450 convertible she drove, or the 4-carat diamonds she wore. But did she really need those things when she could have me? During these 2 years, I saw my family less and less. My mother and father, my brother and his wife were embarrassed and disgusted with me. My brother's wife, Rachel, most of all. She had strong feelings about adultery, and I was never invited to their home, although she did not stop Jeff from being with me. I think she hoped he would influence me. I waited 2 years. Then, I looked up from my desk and saw him standing in front of it. Naturally, I checked his hands for a pistol or some other weapon. Nothing but 2 hands, not even clenched fists. I had never met him before, but I recognized him from the photographs that decorated the hallway leading to their bedroom. Photos show him with Christy in Venice, Buenos Aires, Paris, and many other exotic places. He was a little shorter than me, but still in great shape for a man in his 50s. Impeccably dressed. His suit probably cost as much as my entire wardrobe. In keeping with the fashion for casual clothing, he did not wear a tie. The collar of his insanely well-ironed shirt was undone. His clothes, his impeccable haircut, his whole being simply drove me crazy. "What do you want?" I said this in the most threatening tone I could muster. I became bolder when I saw that he had no weapons. "Can I sit down?" Continue. "Mr. Brown, I came here to ask how much it would cost me if you stopped dating my wife." "Mr. Thomas, you don't have that much money." "I have a lot of money." "Mr. Thomas, I have loved Christy for 12 years. I should be her husband, not you. You are her husband only because you can buy her what she deserves. Do you really think that a beautiful woman like Christy would marry a man 20 years older than her if he had no money? No, I have no doubt that Christy married me because I have money. But it doesn't change the fact that I love her and that we made vows. She says she loves me, and I believe her. And I know it sounds ridiculous to say that she loves me, when at the same time I'm looking at a man who sleeps with her every time I'm out of town. Simple fact, Mr. Brown. Christy married me, not you. His arrogance continued to irritate me, and I exploded. Yes, you married her, but it's me who has sex with her. My outburst must have hit Kent Thomas between the eyes and straight to the soul. His expression became sad, and his mouth twisted. Finally, he spoke. Mr. Brown, I love my wife. Yes, she's a flawed person, and yes, you two have sex. But in every other way, Christy is a wonderful wife. Her only fault is the feeling she has for you, but that is not love. Otherwise, she would have left me and married you when I came face to face with her. I offered Christy her freedom and even handed her a check for $1 million. She didn't take it. This must be bullshit. Christy wouldn't give up $1 million for anything. It would give us everything we need to be together. Mr. Thomas, I don't believe you. This conversation is over. I would appreciate it if you would leave my office now. Kent Thomas rose from his chair and left without saying a word. Christy hadn't called in a few days, but I didn't expect her to call if her husband was in town watching. I decided to contact my brother and go to a Blackhawks game. We were having a great time until I started talking about Kent Thomas's visit. You won't believe it, Jeff. This man actually sat there and practically begged me to stop dating Christy. Can you believe a guy would stoop so low? My little brother just stared at me with a look of surprise on his face. I couldn't stand it. What? Are you really going to sit here and talk about another man groveling when it comes to Christy? My brother? A man who spent over a decade waiting for her to become his girlfriend or wife or whatever? She was my girlfriend and my lover almost all this time. And yet she dated a quarterback in high school, a basketball star in college, and married another man. I'm just glad Rachel has a different definition of commitment. Rachel wouldn't be my wife if she had the same exclusivity attitude as your girlfriend. From that moment on, everything went downhill. I think I made a derogatory remark about Rachel. It all ended when Jeff said to me, "Fuck you," and left the bar. I didn't hear anything from Christy for the next few months. She was in Europe for a while and then came to their home in Palm Beach. One Saturday, Christy called me at the last minute. Can you come here tonight? I have a free evening. But the tickets to Palm Beach were booked until 10 in the evening, and nothing came of it. It was only 7 months after Kent Thomas visited my office that I was able to see Christy again. We knew her house was now off limits, so we met at Drake while she was shopping. It cost me a ton of money, but it was worth it. It seemed like nothing had changed between Christy and me. Sex, as always, was out of this world. For 2 hours, we made love. For 2 hours, I tried my best to make her forget that she was living in another world. After 2 hours, Christy took a shower, got dressed, and left the room. I've been watching her all this time. I looked up from my desk and saw him standing there. He was a tall man with fair skin, almost pasty white. I didn't recognize him, but I recognized the shiny object in his hand. I've never shot a pistol, but I understand how they work. It was a stainless steel revolver. He raised the gun and put the barrel to my forehead. I heard a distinctive click as he pulled the trigger back, and I wet my pants. When he spoke, it was with a slight accent. Irish, I think. You should have taken the money they offered you. I was scared, more scared than I've ever been in my life. Is it too late? Oh yes, it's too late. The money you were supposed to receive was given to me. At these words, my intestines almost turned out. Anyway, I farted terribly. My little office was really starting to stink. Son of a bitch. You really are a weakling. I'll do it quickly. This is your last warning. You text, talk, date, or have sex with her again, I come back and shoot you in the head. It's that simple. Oh, if you call the cops and tell them about this visit, you won't like what my partner does to you before he blows your head off. You will beg for the bullet to end your pain. The guy just turned around and walked out. I did exactly as I was asked. I never spoke to Christy again, except to tell her both times she called that I was seeing another woman and would not see her again. When Christy tried to talk, I told her it would be better if we just didn't even talk to each other. Christy seemed hurt that I had closed her door. She obviously knew nothing about the threats I received from her husband. 3 months later, I was dining alone at a small Greek restaurant on Halsted. They entered the restaurant together. Heck, of all the thousands of restaurants in Chicago, and especially this one, this is not a place that a multimillionaire and his trophy wife frequent. What the hell are they doing here? They sat where I should have been facing them, just a couple of tables away, close enough to overhear. Christy looked back and saw me. She leaned over and told Kent that she recognized her friend. Would he mind if she came over and said hi? Of course not, dear. Christy rose from her chair and walked over to me. Sam, what a surprise. How are you? I watched Kent out of the corner of my eye as I answered Christy. He watched, smiling. I'm fine, Christy. And you? Better than ever. Still dating that lady you told me about? My fictional stay-alive lady. I lied. Yes. I think we will get married. That's good, Sam. Are you going to invite your old friend to your wedding? No, it's unlikely. Christy lowered her voice so Kent wouldn't hear. God, Sam, do you have to be so damn cold? Now Kent shook his head, and his smile became sinister. Go back to your husband and leave me alone. Fuck you. Christy turned and walked back to Kent. I put the 20 on the table and walked out without looking at them. As I approached the door, it dawned on me that meeting them in that restaurant was not an accident. I was being followed and he knew where I would be. Kent Thomas brought Christy there to gloat. He won and I lost. 2 days later, the same tall Irishman came into my office. All he said was, "Keep up the good work." That's all. My brother and I mended our relationship, but only after I apologized for being such an ass to Rachel. She didn't deserve my disrespect. She was Jeff's loving wife. They convinced me that I needed professional help. I spent 6 months with a therapist, trying to overcome 12 years of yearning for a woman who had never wanted anything from me except support. It took me these 6 months to understand this. What makes a woman like Christy attractive, Doc? What makes her treat the man she loves this way? Do you think Christy loves you? She told me yes. She's been telling me this since high school. She was the first woman I ever fell in love with. We continued making love until her husband started threatening me. I don't know Christy, and I can't say for sure, but from everything you've told me, she's a classic narcissist. The world revolves around her and what she wants. What she thinks she deserves. She wants everything that comes with being rich. But she also wants great sex. Her husband gave her one thing. You gave her another. One man could never fill the void that a woman has, unless he was super rich, super stud, and there are very few such men around. Not enough for all the women looking for Mr. Everything. Plus, even if the husband is rich enough and great in bed, does he spend enough time with her, or does he make a living supporting their lifestyle? And does he satisfy her emotional needs? You see, Sam, people with narcissism will always find an excuse to want more. And just to be clear, this doesn't only apply to women. Needs and desires may vary, but there are narcissistic men who cannot fill their bucket. Think about some of the masters of the universe types you have encountered in the business world. They have the same problems, just different needs. What about Kent Thomas, her husband, Doc? How can a man afford to support his wife who cheated on him? How does he tolerate this? The doctor did his best to hide his surprise at my question. He thought for a moment, then replied, I would like you to answer your own question, Samuel. How have you endured this all these years, waiting for a woman who obviously treated you with such disrespect? You have loved the illusion all this time. At least Mr. Thomas sleeps with her and spends most of his time in the same house with the woman he loves. You were given much less than that, and you returned again and again all these years. His words touched me deeply, At first, I was angry at what he said and the way he said it. I almost canceled my next session the following week. But over the next few weeks, we discussed it. His words reinforced everything my parents, brother, and friends had tried for so long to make me understand. The situation has become clearer. I can honestly say that after 6 months, I was able to resist Christie's next challenge, even without the Irishman's threat of physical harm. I was almost there and almost free of her. It took another 2 months to place the ad in the Men Seeking Women column in the Reader's newspaper. This was the best option for online dating. I met several women this way, but it turned out that I met my future wife through friends. When Fred and Diana Turner realized that I had finally broken up with Christy, they introduced me to their friend. Stacey Roberts was and remains a beautiful woman, both inside and out. How I was so lucky that this woman was still single and wanted to eventually marry me is beyond the blessings I deserve. We have 2 beautiful children, and in the 30 years we've been married, I can honestly say that Christy has not haunted my dreams. I received an invitation to our high school reunion and was about to throw it in the trash when the phone rang. It was Larry Parker, one of my best friends in elementary and high school. "Sam Brown, long time no see. I've contacted a few guys on the tennis team, and they want you to come to their homecoming. Most people are angry that you haven't been to a homecoming in 10 years. After Larry and I talked about life, I agreed to come. It would be great to see these guys." Stacy bought a new dress and heels for the event. She looked classy sexy, not slutty sexy, and I loved walking into the room on the arm of such a beautiful woman. Why does school shit never go away? We were having a great evening at a table full of tennis team members and their wives when she walked into the room. From a distance, it seemed that Christy had not aged a bit in the 30 years since I last saw her in that Greek restaurant. Her breasts were bigger. Of course, you couldn't help but notice these 2 melons, which favorably emphasized her slender figure. She wore more jewelry than Elizabeth Taylor at the Oscars and was accompanied by a guy who looked to be in his 40s. Most of the men and some of the wives at our table looked at her and back at me, I guess, waiting for a reaction. Stacy caught it all. She followed their gaze. This must be Christy. Our table mates now looked at Stacy, waiting for her reaction. They were disappointed if they expected Stacy to lose her cool. Of course, I see the appeal. Beautiful woman. "Sam, could you get me another glass of wine, please?" Stacy turned and continued the conversation she was having before she was interrupted. He and his wife, Larry, bragged about their grandchildren's amazing talents. I chuckled and brought her some wine. We sat at our table for the next half hour. Other classmates came and went, stopping to say hello. Then I looked up and saw Christy standing next to me. "Hello, Sam." "Hello, Christy. You look good." "Thank you." "I don't think you know my wife. This is Stacy." "Stacy, this is Christy. We've met before." Stacy played along. "She's so sweet." "It's very nice to meet you, Christy. I can't believe you 2 were dating. You look hardly older than our daughter." Christy was confused by the comment. She was speechless. She expected a sarcastic remark from my wife, but instead, she received a compliment. Now that Christy was closer, it became obvious that her breasts weren't the only work she had done. The tension around the mouth and eyes was too much. Why would anyone do this to themselves? You know how some of these Hollywood types suddenly look like there's something wrong? Do they look creepy? "Sam, can I invite you to this dance? That is, if your wife doesn't mind you dancing with your ex-girlfriend." Stacy kept her cool in response to Christy's bullying. "Object? Of course not." Stacy winked at me, letting me know that everything was okay. "Christy," I asked, "what about your boyfriend?" "He's fine until the bar runs out of alcohol." We danced. "Where is Kent?" "Kent died 10 years ago. He must have left you a good inheritance." "Looks like you're doing well." "He left me everything. His widow is doing well. I travel anywhere and everywhere. Always stylish." Christy looked at her boyfriend when she said this. She saw that I was following her gaze. "Well, I had to find someone to replace you when you disappeared. I hope you waited for his 18th birthday, like you waited for mine, Christy." Oh, Sam, are you jealous? Hardly, Christy. It's time for me to move on and find my own life and wife. I'm so sorry, Sam. If you had stayed there, all that money would have been mine, and I could have shared it with you. I have something better than your money, Christy. Look at that woman over there. Stacy gave me life. This is such corny nonsense, Sam. Christy, I didn't know it at the time, but the best day of my life was the day the thug your husband hired put a gun to my head and told me to never see you again. Christy looked at me as wide-eyed as plastic surgery would allow. I did not know that. Doesn't matter, I married Stacy. I have 2 wonderful children and 3 grandchildren. Here, look. I pulled away, ready to take out my wallet to show a photo of our large family. Just then, Stacy intervened. Sorry, it's time to dance with my husband. Stacy pressed her whole body against me and moved us away from Christy, who was now standing alone on the dance floor. God, you're lucky. What do you mean? I mean, your instrument didn't respond to her. Now I understand why Stacy pressed her pelvis against mine. You would be cut off for a week if that happened. I had to laugh at Stacy's warning. An empty threat, my love. I would like to see how you get through a week without my love. I didn't say I'd be left without her. You would spend a week worshiping my body without getting any relief yourself. Damn, I love this woman. She continued to tease. What do you think? Would you like to buy me breasts similar to the ones your ex-girlfriend bought? Don't you dare touch these beauties. I love them the way they are. I pressed my chest against hers just to let her know that I loved them. Even if they sag? It was our personal joke. How could they sag? They are not big enough to sag. Damn right, mister. They are all mine. And they are perfect. We're perfect, baby. You know how much I love you. Stacy kissed me back. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one.